everybody. Welcome to Called Up the Prospects podcast. I am Chris Peters from FloHockey, joined as always by Cam Robinson. And folks, it is a great day to be with you here. NHL training camps are open. We've got hockey season starting, the O, the Q, the USHL all started yesterday. The BCHL starts this weekend. You've got all the junior leagues like the OJHL. They've already been going, so there's a lot of things happening right now. But Cam, hey, it's hockey season, buddy. We are in full swing here. Everything is happening. How you been, man? Can you handle the excitement at the moment?
Man, I'm very excited. It seems like we both skipped the USHL Fall Classic though, so we're both on home turf here for that. That's okay. It's a bit of a slow start. I've got a trip to Sweden coming up in a couple weeks here anyway, so we'll get the ball rolling there. But no, it's all very exciting. I love seeing junior hockey start. Training camps are firing up. We got rookies battling for spots. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, with everything starting up, and then now that the way that we have things set up on FloHockey, I can just watch more games. So just watching a lot of games from the comfort of my own home and getting ready for the season. A lot of travel yet to come, and yeah, Sweden's going to be a hot spot, man. We're going to have actually on FloHockey, we're going to have the SHL game between Frölunda and Djurgården, which is going to be a big time matchup in the SHL. So we'll have that one on Flo, but we'll talk about a lot more things with that. But yeah, today we're going to talk about the prospects in the NHL training camps. We're also going to talk about the TSN draft list, the first look that we have from what NHL teams are saying about this year's draft class. We'll talk a little bit about that. Called Up Challenge is back this week, plus our regular segments Beyond Belief, and you have to pick one. But before we get to all of that, want to pause for a second for a quick word from FloHockey about what's coming up this season.
Hockey hits harder on Flo. The AHL, the ECHL, the USHL, the O, the Q. So don't just watch hockey, live it. Get your annual Flo subscription now.
Oh, man, I'm fired up, buddy. I'm fired up. Lots of things happening. The day that we're recording this is actually opening day for the QMJHL and the OHL on FloHockey. A lot of leagues starting up. Really excited about that. But it's also NHL training camp week, Cam, and there are a lot of prospects that are in camp, some with a realistic chance of making their NHL team, some with a not so realistic chance of making it, and maybe a better path forward. So we're going to take a list of players today. We're going to talk about them. We're, the guys that, some of the no doubters, some of the guys that are on the bubble, some of the guys that maybe are some wild cards in camp who could potentially surprise. Big list here, a lot to get to. And we're going to start it off with the guy who's number one. And the way this will work is Cam and I are going to talk through it. We're going to say, should he stay with the team for the whole season, or should he be heading back to junior? Should he go to the AHL? Should he go back to wherever he came from? All of those different options are on the table. But we start with our number one pick from the most recent NHL draft, Matthew Schaefer. Cam, I think we've talked about this a fair amount already, but I do think it's worth having the discussion now that camp is open. Ultimately, for you, what is the best thing for Matthew Schaefer this season?
I can't say NCAA anymore.
No,
I think
off the table.
I still remain that I think that would have been the best. It started me off like hard. Like I thought we were supposed to go no doubters at the top here. Like we should have started with Demidov or something. Hey, and just walked ourselves through it here.
Yeah, that would have been easy. That would have been a short one.
I think it's interesting because for the team, for the organization, maybe the best thing is to have him up there, shiny new toy, sell some tickets, great kid, get him in the organization, have your hands all over him the whole year. Is it best for the player after the abbreviated draft eligible season and because he's so young? That's where the question marks come in. But I'd like to say, I do think he's best served in the NHL. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say he's best served to play the full season in the NHL rather than going back to Erie, playing junior hockey. I do think, despite not dominating at that level last year as a junior age, I think he is ready, and mentally he's the type of person that can handle that challenge and handle the difficulty that will come with it as well.
Yeah, I've been on the fence about it myself, because I think that the abbreviated season, the different things, the steps that you kind of take on the way to the NHL, those are, I feel like he hasn't taken all of them yet. And that's, to me, is where, and I was kind of with you on that, with the idea of the potential for playing college hockey, or, taking kind of that hybrid step, if you will, where that would have worked out. But the thing that I think is basically the way that the Islanders should think about this is that the 9 games that you would have to allow the contract to slide if you didn't have him play the 10th game, um, is irrelevant. I say don't
Yeah.
even think about that. So basically I think you think more about the contract timeline, what the 40 games that he would have to be in the lineup for that clock on his RFA clock to start. So I think that that's probably more of the target here. What I think the Islanders should do is absolutely start him in the NHL, see how things are going. If you can't properly insulate him, and if he is clearly not ready for that step, you've got to make the quick decision to say, okay, we need to send him back. We need to, this is not the best place for him to maximize what he is. And maybe it's more of that kind of hybrid where we've talked about how the Ducks handled Leo Carlson. They didn't give him too much too soon. They sheltered him a little bit more. They put him in good opportunities. If you can do that with Schaefer and not focus on the 9 games or the 40 games or whatever and just do it that way, you might have a chance. But to me, it's one of those where you can absolutely screw this up if you go too much too soon, especially with a player that's coming up after injury. And so I think it's a far more complicated decision than it would appear on the surface, don't you think?
Yeah, no, and you bring up a great point with that 41 games or whatever that they need to play.
Yeah.
And so you almost even forgetting about that, like you want to have that in your back pocket because this is supposed to be a long-term asset that you want to maximize RFA years too. But it's like you kind of have to make that decision around December 22nd. So you can send him back to the juniors so he can go play at the Worlds, right, with Team Canada, and then just head back to junior. We've seen that a couple of times, right? They stick around until December, and then it's like, okay, now go play World Juniors, now go back, dominate junior, and come on back next year. So I think absolutely that should be coming into play. And you're right. Don't worry about the 9 games. Let that contract, forget about sliding it. Who cares? This is a first overall pick. Get him as much ice as you can in sheltered situations. But you're right. It's not too often we have a first overall pick that it's like, could he make it? Will he make it? Like it's sometimes we see those college kids where it's like, he's just going to go back. And we know that already.
Right.
But usually when they come to camp, they're breaking camp and they're sticking around for the season.
Right. Yeah. And, it's just, you also have to take into account, last season was not a full season. He hadn't played live games until December. We saw, he was a little bit all over the place at the World Junior Summer Showcase, but the skating is still elite. The hockey sense is there. There's the skills are there. But this is such a critical asset. You can't force him into it. And just, the other thing that I said, properly insulating him. So no more Noah Dobson. So your blue line is already diminished at that point, but you still have Pulock, you still have Pelech, you still have Pulock, Pelech, Mayfield, Romanov and D'Angelo are on there as well. I think Mayfield probably looks like the guy that you're going to have shepherding the young fella, maybe in a depth role. I think that he's a good veteran guy, maybe he gets a little bit of run with one of those guys at the top of their lineup, at the top of their blue line. But yeah, I mean, it's a complicated situation for the Islanders to get into. And you think about Owen Power, he decided, very mature decision, I thought, and the correct one, to go back to school for an additional year after he was picked number 1. The pressure on number 1 picks is already enormous, but he said, I'm not ready. And, I think that Schaefer has never given that inclination. We know he's a confident kid, all those things, but man, it is the biggest, so they drafted him. Now they have another big decision, so we'll see where that goes. But I think, we weren't starting off easy, but we'll see if we can get a little bit easier as we move along here. Cause obviously Matty Schaefer will be watched incredibly closely. And I said it wouldn't get harder, or it might get a little bit easier, but I'm not necessarily, it might be easy for you. It's not as easy for me. We're going to go to these next 2 guys here, and we're going to head on the opposite side of the country and go over to the San Jose Sharks, where they have Michael Misa and Sam Dickinson, 2 players knocking on the door, coming off of dominant OHL seasons. In Dickinson's case, an OHL title, a Memorial Cup, some of the best hockey we've seen him play. Misa, top scorer, just unbelievably dominant scorer for Saginaw. And the question is, especially with where the Sharks are as an organization, is this the best place for them? Cam, what say you about these 2 players? And you can take them one at a time, both however you want to do it.
I don't think the organization was thrilled with the idea of bringing in both Celebrini and Will Smith last year and having to bring in two young teenagers. And then they quickly found out that Macklin Celebrini is actually a 30-year-old in an 18-year-old's body. And so that was
Right.
fine, right? And Smith found his way, fairly well too as the season wore on. So it worked out. And so I think that there is some evidence to prove that, hey, we were a very bad team last year and we still brought along these two exceptional young players and it was okay. Now they have the same thing facing them again, right? Not to mention, there's going to be a couple other guys there that are young guys that are going to be pushing for spots too. Some high-end guys, I think that could make some noise as well. But, looking at Dickinson, looking at Misa, both are NHL or back to the O. Unlike Schaefer, they dominated, right? Like you mentioned, Misa, for my money, was the CHL top player. I think no disrespect to Gavin McKenna. And then Dickey was, arguably the top D-man in the entire CHL as well. They have nothing left to prove at the junior level. I think you have to find a way. I think Misa's going to just make it easy for you. I think that his all-around tools, the nuance to his game. I think he's responsible defensively. He has the size. He's going to be able to handle an NHL role, even if you do handle him a little bit like Leo Carlson was, where you sit him out some games and you have him watch from the sky and you have him working with your skills guys and your development guys, and then you get him back in the lineup, and that's all fine if he only ends up playing 56, 60 games, something like that. Same with Dickinson, in and out. I just don't think there's anything left to be gained to go back to junior, which forces their hand, which means that it's like, if you don't want to stall their development, you keep them with the big club, even if they're seeing 10 minutes a night sometimes, even if they're healthy scratched, even if it's, come the spring and their roles are elevated at that point when it's just garbage time. I think that that's all going to be valuable for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is a very, it's complicated because of how good they were last year, because it shouldn't complicate it, but it does, because really the other thing you have to look at is where's the space, where do they fit in? And they have it. Like the Sharks have the capability. They don't have these tremendous, team, they obviously don't have a very deep team. So there's places to spot them in, but you also want to put them in positions to succeed. Can Misa ride shotgun with Toffoli or something like that? If he's not already playing with Celebrini and Smith, or however they're going to work that out. There's a lot of different things that you could potentially do for that. And I think that that's going to be a very interesting, kind of dynamic for them to work them in. But I think, the Leo Carlson model makes a lot of sense. I kind of agree with you in particularly, in Misa's case, he has played an extra year of junior compared to his age peers because of being an exceptional status player. Whereas now, Dickinson has done everything, won everything at that level. And they're going to be able to develop, but really now you have to push them to the next level. And that's where, and that's why I think we frankly had that discussion about Misa and the potential for going to school, because of, hey, again, that hybrid step that now exists and is available to you. But again, you give up the opportunity to make the NHL at a younger age. So the question I think for Mike Greer at this point is, can you be a credible hockey team with that many young players? Obviously, Celebrini is a different story. We saw Smith really take off last year. But how competitive really can you be? And how competitive do you need to be? Obviously not yet. You're not within your competitive window yet. There's a lot of ways to go. But, I think you're right in this instance as well. Keep them where they are. Find the ways to maximize them while they're there. There's a ton they can learn from these older guys. The only question I have at this point is, how much room does Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton have in their houses anymore? And can they house? Is it now just a boarding house for the very best prospects in the game today? Because as far as I know, I believe Celebrini and Smith are moving back in with their respective veteran, future Hall of Famers or current Hall of Famers.
And why not, right? Why not live with those boys? That sounds like a great time. Like Celebrini talking about how Jumbo would come and play Fortnite with the boys and stuff, and having it.
Oh yeah.
How long did Sid stay with Mario? Right, like it was supposed to be 1 year, and didn't he end up staying like 4? He was just like,
it was a few.
Part of the family, right? Yeah.
I mean,
so
hey, if you're comfortable, your stuff's there already.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll bounce back to the Sharks when we talk about some of the goalies here in a little bit, but we're going to move on now and also talk about one where I do think that there is a very difficult decision ahead once again, and that is with Berkeley Catton of the Seattle Kraken. And Berkeley Catton torched the WHL last season. Spokane Chiefs were absolutely a wagon of offensive firepower, especially after they added Andrew Crystal to that group. And that was just an incredible offensive output. And we'll still see a great young player in Mathis Preston there this year. But Berkeley Catton, again, similar situation when you see a player dominate a league and where they're still junior eligible, where do you go? And he would have been a great player for the rule that they're considering about the AHL and having guys that can be moved in the AHL earlier. I think he's the prime candidate for that. We've seen that the Kraken have a really great development system with Coachella Valley and have had, a lot of success with that group. But I think that now you've got this situation with Catton, who was so good, 109 points last season. Had a bit of a soft World Juniors, not a very productive World Juniors. May have not even been used properly there, but who was in that tournament? And really, this is a fascinating discussion because he is a critical piece. The Kraken have struggled to score goals. He's a guy that can help offensively. Where do you land with Berkeley Catton?
Yeah, he's going to make it a difficult decision because he is another one that is too good to go back. He had 109 last year. He had 116 the year before that, right? Like he's almost a 2-point a game guy over the last 2 seasons, nearly dropped 100 goals over that span. It's like he's done everything. And Spokane's going to be a good team too. Again, this year, obviously they'll be demonstrably better if Berkeley's back there. But it's what does he have left to prove, right? Like, yes, the World Junior experience wasn't a success, so he could go back and he could enjoy that, or he could enjoy a lengthier playoff run. But realistically, it's like you probably want him in the NHL. Now the question becomes, though, is where's the spot for him? Because you don't want him on your fourth line. You don't really want that. I think that's just a poor placement for him in the lineup, in the depth chart, even though some organizations like to bring their guys up through that route. I'm not a big proponent of it. I think you have a skilled player like him. He, in their organization, is their best hope at an elite offensive player. And this is a team that is kind of the island of misfit toys when it comes to they're missing pieces, and they're missing that elite piece to drive them offensively. It's like the teddy bear without one eye and the button's missing, and they need it. And Berkeley Catton is that eye button.
I like that analogy.
Right, there we go. I'm digging deep on that.
I mean, because you look right now and you've got Beniers and Wright. Obviously, these are guys and guys that are going to make, they don't wow you with their offensive
70 point
right?
guys.
Yeah, exactly. Catton could potentially be, you look at kind of the Logan Cooley mode that we've seen with Utah. Is that a path forward for him? Is that Clayton Keller type player in him? Where you're, a guy that could touch and 90 points, as you get further down the road here. And as I look, you're right. Like where does the spot come in? They've got enough veteran talent they've got enough veteran talent in the group. They have a guy that really excelled in the AHL and Yanni Newman last year, who is a guy that could potentially fit into their top 6 as early as this season. But the thing is, so if you're going to get Catton in there, you're exactly right. You can't put him in a position where he's not going to be able to be the player that he is. Yeah, you're going to have to shelter him a bit. Yeah, you're going to have to give him some opportunities. But he is, if you can get him on that second power play unit, if you can get him these kind of reps where he is going to be, doing the things that made him successful in junior, you're going to have that thing. Last year in the playoffs, Cam, and I know we were watching just the WHL. The numbers that were being put up in the playoffs by some of these guys, including Gavin McKenna, were insane. 42 points for Berkeley Catton in 20 playoff games. 2.2 points per game. I mean, like he's just absolutely on fire. And now you got to find a spot. And how does that work? How do you do that? Are you going to move guys? Like where do you go? I mean, I just don't know.
Well, you're looking up and down that lineup, right? You got Kakko, Eberle, Tolvanen on the right side. You talked about Neiman, Schwartz, McCann, Marchment now, and that there's your top 9. There's your wingers. But I'll say another thing too. A couple things actually is that he's up to 180 or 181 or something like that. So he's playing 6-7 pounds heavier than he was last season, which is huge for a sub 6 foot kid. checking out that Vancouver Seattle prospect we know how we love our prospect tournaments. I caught one of those games. There were two players on the ice that looked like these are NHLers playing against non-NHLers. One of them was Elias Pettersson, the defenseman for the Canucks, and the other one was
really good player.
And those two stood out, head and shoulders. It was like, these guys look like NHLers playing against junior players or college players. And so it's like, that's a good first step for Berkeley.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's really up to him to make the case to the coaching staff, make the case to the organization that it's time. You'll notice that we haven't mentioned Jake O'Brien, who was a top 10 pick for last year for Seattle. Both of us, I would imagine, agree, and he's not on my list, but both of us, I imagine, we agree that he should be right back to the OHL. Really not a lot of time. No, there's plenty for him to learn at that level. He's going to be the captain of the Brantford Bulldogs, which is according to the OHL preseason power rankings, the number one team in the OHL. So that's another guy to keep an eye on. So let's get really complicated, because we've had a couple with two players, but there's a team that's going to have a decision to make about three players, all on the blue line. And if you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan, how do you choose? Artem Levshinov, Sam Rinzel, and Kevin Korchinski, who played a full season in the NHL as a teenager, went back and played a full season in the AHL, and got some looks at the NHL level. And now it's like, okay, time to figure out where we're at, because we've got to make a choice on some of these players. I believe the organization still has faith in Korchinski, but when we saw Sam Rinzel come in last year and have a very good showing in the early stages after a dominant college season, a season I frankly did not see coming from him, and I've been high on him since his draft year, he's taken a real jump. And then you have Artem Levshinov, who started last season injured, got off to a slow start, but played decently well in the AHL over the course of the season. I don't think you can put all three of these guys on your blue line heading into the season. They did add Matt Grzelcyk on a PTO to get some veteran help. Otherwise, they're going to have an especially young blue line. Do you think there's any way all three of these guys make sense to be on their roster? And if not, who makes the most sense at this point?
Gosh, can you imagine running like your top four? You've got Rinzel and Levshinov, two rookies on the right side, and your top four, and then it's still Vlasic and Wyatt Kaiser, and then you're talking Korchinski or Del Mastro. It's like Connor Murphy's the only guy. He's got more NHL experience than all of them put together, right? Like that's
it's wild.
Talk about risking the biscuit. I mean, they're obviously not going to be a good team this year, but you do risk guys just getting cratered and buried in their own end and like losing that confidence. That's not an easy decision. And, personally, I probably would look at management and be like, why didn't you get us another vet or two? So it's like, you're back to the AHL because there's not a spot for you, and it doesn't really matter because we want you to develop and you'll be ready in 26 or 27. But I think Rinzel might have the inside leg, and Levshinov, and then it's Korchinski kind of third on that depth chart. But I mean, someone's got to fill the hole. Is Del Mastro stealing a roster spot this year? Right? Like, is he going to be a full-time NHLer?
I think
I honestly don't know. Right? I don't know what they're going to do and how that'll look. They'll probably have like 9 guys that are rotating through those 6 spots and up and down and doing lots of things. But yeah, I think Rinzel and Lev, I think they're both probably full-time NHLers. We'll see if it's more than 60 games, but I do think that they're on the roster.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you on that too. I think that you have to start getting those guys into those situations and hoping that they can swim. I think the other thing that you do have to consider is waiver eligibility, and having neither of those two guys requiring waivers to go down. I believe Del Mastro would. And so, that's another kind of consideration. How do you figure on those players? Can you send down? Actually, I'm not sure that I actually don't think Del Mastro is yet, because I think he's on the last year of his ELC. So, you've still got a number. You've got options. You have flexibility, and that's the good thing about where you're at with the Blackhawks, where you have almost too many prospects at this point. But you just and you don't. It's not. There's no, really, you can't have too many. But now you don't have enough roster spots to go around. But man, you look at that Chicago roster. And it's hard to see how they're not going to be awful again. And I know Bedard, I feel very strongly Bedard and Nazar are going to take big steps this year, but that isn't going to be enough. And so is it a good place for those young guys? I think Rockford's going to have
That's
a
the
really good
question.
team this year. They're going to, can they develop enough there? Um, if you're the Chicago Blackhawks fans, your patience is already running out, but they're still, that's the thing about when you're in this rebuild stage. When you think you're ready, or as a fan, you're probably still a year away, like at
Or
least,
three.
and before, yeah. And this, in Chicago's case, this was going to be long and painful. They have pieces, but that D question is a big one for Kyle Davidson and Jeff Blashill and everybody there that now have to make their moves. So, yeah,
What about
we'll see there.
why not just go out and sign like two other defensemen, maybe two right side guys, depth guys, 1 year deals, play them for the season, sell them at the deadline for some picks, mid picks, late picks, whatever, and then you bring these kids up. So they have,
Yeah,
40, 50 games in the American League, or they're called up, for injuries, but they're getting their 20 minutes and they're not getting killed and sitting there going for the green jacket with like a minus 40. And then they come up post deadline, right? And then they
yeah,
still get good NHL experience. Yeah, it's garbage time down the stretch while you're battling for a lottery spot, but at least it's not an entire year of that. Where a couple of these guys
yeah,
they're going to just be taking it on the chin for the entire season.
yeah. These I think that a lot of teams that are in rebuilds do get into that stopgap cycle, though, where all of a sudden
Yeah.
now you're like, okay, now they're guys that we can't move for whatever reason. And like, so yeah,
Just
but
1 year
I
deals.
agree. I
1 year
think
deals.
I agree that you just get more guys that, and we'll see. I think like, I actually thought Grizzlick as a PTO guy was a good,
Yeah,
a good balance. Like if it's like,
forgot about
if
that.
Korchinski isn't taking a step, then you've got Grizzlick. So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of different things that are going to happen there. All right, we're gonna buzz through a couple of these because I think they're fairly easy. And this next one, we've talked about on this show before. But what are we thinking about Brady Martin in the Nashville Predators training camp? We know he's gonna look good there. Is he gonna look good enough to earn a spot, or should he earn a spot?
We've said it a number of times. He should go back to junior. He should go back to
Yeah,
junior, but it's like he's probably going to go to camp and do big things. And that's I talked to my kid about tryouts too. I'm like, go do big things. Brady Martin's going to go do big things. And the center depth in Nashville is not all that strong. Loads of wingers, not a lot of centers. I still say it. I think he's going to make a strong enough case that he's going to see some games to start the year, that he'll force them to keep him around, and then hopefully, cooler heads prevail and they go, thanks for here's your 8 or 9 games. Head on back to junior. Have yourself a fun year. We'll see you next year, kid.
that's exactly what I think. Give him a couple of games in the NHL. Give him a taste. Let him see what it is. Don't promise anything, and just
Yeah,
say we just want to see how this goes. Earn it. I think about again, different size profile and things like that. But Tom Wilson entering the NHL right away, um, fourth line guy, energy, brought that stuff. He found a way to make a role. But I think if you are a top 5 pick like Brady Martin is, you got to develop some more of those offensive elements. And I don't think he'll be able to do that at the NHL level because of the way that he will have to play to keep his head
totally.
above water. So I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. So patience in Nashville as well. Another guy similar, I think physically, they're, physically mature, does a lot of great things. But we're moving on now to Justin Carbonneau of the St. Louis Blues, and loved that pick at the draft. And what do you got for him? Where's he going?
Back to junior. Back to junior. Back to junior you go. Go have a nice year. See if you can't win the Q. See if you can't win the MEM. Have a good time. See you next year at camp. I don't even know if you'll be ready next year.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. He's got some great tools, but I think that he's gonna, Blainville Boisbriand was the number 1 team in the CHL preseason power rankings. You look at that roster with what they have. Carbonneau believes that they could win it, and that's a big reason why he decided not to go to college. And so I think that his focus is going to be back with Blainville as well. And so that's another one. All right, this one's a little trickier. Dmitry Simashev of the Utah Mammoth. So Simashev came over from Russia, first round draft pick, large human.
Hmm.
What do the Mammoth do with this Russian defenseman?
American League. American League. Get your feet wet. Call you up if you're playing well. Keep you down there maybe for most of the season.
100%. I agree with that completely. I like Dmitry Simashev a lot more than I did in his draft season. I see more of the NHL tools. The AHL is a great place for him to
Great
familiarize with, and Tucson is their AHL affiliate. They are going to have a plan for him in place. That's going to be a guy that I think makes a ton of sense for them. All right, here's another one. He made it out of camp last year, but can Jet Luchenko make it out of camp in Philadelphia this year as the Flyers look to what's happening here with Jet Luchenko?
He might be able to. He might be able to break camp with the club, but I don't think he should. It's a guy who barely a point a game in the OHL last year. Like, I don't think he's proven that he's that league is beneath him now. I think that if you want to find another level offensively from him, if you don't want to just be like, hey, here's a guy that can be a pretty good bottom sixer for us long term, we spent that high of a pick on that. No, why don't you send him back and see if he can't pop off and maybe touch 80 points or something like that next year, the O. Then again, come on back. We'll get you. Maybe it's the AHL next year too, right? He's 19. Yeah. There's no rush on this. Let's see if he can find some offense to bring along with him.
Yeah. I don't see a fit on their roster right now. And the other thing too, like you look at, there's a guy on their roster that I think is one of the great cautionary tales of giving that player the early bump. Owen Tippett, when he was with Florida, right out of the gates, they gave him the games and it was like, gosh, this guy, he's popping. And then they sent him back to junior, and then it took him a couple of years to get it back. Jet Luchenko did not have a great season last year. I think he's definitely got to be with the OHL. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to play a lot of minutes for Team Canada at the World Juniors. Give him those opportunities. He's got to rebuild. Obviously, there's pressure on that player because of the draft status, and we're going to probably see Zeev Buium, who I didn't even list because I think there's no doubt that he's an everyday player for the Minnesota Wild. But it's going to be an interesting one. So instead of using Zeev for the Minnesota Wild, I wanted to go with another Russian on this next one, and that's Danila Yurov. Now, Yurov does have one of those clauses where, hey, if you're going to send me down, at least give me the option to go back to Russia. I have been told that that's not necessarily a concern, and that, if the AHL is where they want him to be, then that's still a distinct possibility. But that's Danila Yurov. He picked a few years ago. He's done very well for himself in the KHL. Do you think he's ready to make the transition to North America? Can he play for the Wild this season?
Yeah, I think he can. And I think he will. Now, of course, anything can happen. If he doesn't, if he then they do have that right to send him down to the American League, and he does have that right to go back to Russia. But I'm under the impression that he has his name penciled in on that roster, potentially as a 3C, playing with another young kid like Liam Ugrin or something like that. Hartman on the other side, like they've got some potential there, and that was a big reason why Rossi. It's like, for him, it's like he wasn't going to get dealt. What's the point of sitting out? Yeah. His main competition for minutes is going to be Yurov in that middle six. So we assume that Eric's next getting the top minutes, but it's like, Rossi's got a pretty easy slot in there at the 2 seed when you're just battling against Yurov, who has no NHL experience. But I do think that Yurov, he's played a ton of pro hockey over there in Europe. He has the details to his game. You're not expecting him to be a high-end offensive player, but I do think he has enough offense to play in that kind of top 9 role. And I do think he'll play for the Wild this year.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think that, the physical strength, physical maturity of the player, a guy that's been at the pro game. Here's one piece of advice for Danila. Make great and fast friends with Kirill Kaprizov, because whatever he wants at this point will happen. So we'll talk about Kaprizov a little bit later as we get into our want to dabble in a little NHL discussion before we get out of here. All right. Real quick here, Nate Danielson of the Detroit Red Wings, really strong season in the AHL last year. Is there a spot? They've got a lot of young guys kind of in that mix too. As a team that's looking to take a step, is Nate Danielson ready to be on their NHL roster?
Nah, I don't think so. Not yet. I don't think he's ready. I think it's back to the American League again. Not someone that you're looking to really pop offensively, but I think there is more to give at the American League level before he can really push up and steal a job there in Detroit. He's 21 now
Yeah,
too,
I
isn't
agree.
he?
You
Yeah,
know,
so
I like the player. I think, there's it's just really interesting that, in Detroit, they haven't really drafted that guy that really has popped. Like they
mhm.
have guys that'll fit into good roles. I think Danielson is one of them.
They all fit in the
Marco
same role.
Casper, Michael Brandsegg Nygaard. Like they're guys, they're NHL players. Are they going to move? Are they going to move the needle enough to get you to where you need to be? And I don't necessarily think so. Real quick, Cam, couple wild cards that I wanted to mention too. Guys that maybe are on could surprise. One, we've got Daniil Boot, Dalibor Dvorsky with the St. Louis Blues, Bradley Nadeau with the Carolina Hurricanes, Stian Solberg with the Anaheim Ducks, and these were names that you added to our list that I thought really make a lot of sense. Of those guys, I just want to pause on Solberg because
Mhm.
what do you think he's got the goods to push his way into a spot with that Anaheim Ducks team? Is there enough spots there for the taking for him to get one?
I think so. I think so because mostly it's similar to Chicago where it's a bunch of young guys, right? So it's Olin
Right.
Zellweger, it's Pavel Mityukov right on that left side, Jackson Lacombe, and then the right side's got Gudis and Truba and stuff like that. So they got their vets on that side. I think that Solberg, we loved the progression we saw from him as a draft eligible, right? It was like he just was taken off like a rocket ship. And
Yep.
he is a
Yep.
unique player, right? He's a unique player in how physical he is and how game he is and how ferocious he is. And then, he played pro hockey last year, had a really strong world championships, came over, saw some AHL action, right? Didn't he get some playoff games? I thought he got some playoff games
Yep.
in
Yep.
San Diego
Yep.
last year, right? And did well, right? So
Yeah.
he got his feet wet a little bit in the American League too. I think that this kid is like a complete dark horse to come into camp, run over some people, and then sit next to Truba in the dressing room, and Truba can teach him like, here's when you get your elbow up in the guy's ear and get yourself a 10 gamer. Teach him wisdom, right? Like that. But no, I do think he's a sneaky one that he could steal a job.
I was so impressed. I was at his AHL debut because he was at Iowa and I was broadcasting the game, and the amount of guys he laid out in that game at the AHL level, veteran players, guys in their 30s. I mean, it was
Dude, it's
really
hard.
impressive. He's a physically mature young man. Another, Bradley Nadeau, I think great AHL season last year, high end goal scorer. The question is where, when you've got Stankoven and Blake and others, where does another smallish winger fit in to that team? If any team can find a place for him, it's probably Carolina. But yeah, and I do think Dvorsky is one to watch too. But what do you want to say about Nadeau?
Nadeau, 32 goals last year as a 19-year-old in
Yeah,
the
unreal.
American Hockey League. What? You do not score 30 plus goals as a teenager in the American Hockey League. Like that just does not happen. And another guy who was, not used correctly at the World Juniors. The kid's got a weapon and they had him playing on the goal line on the power play. But no, you're right. Just because of the situation in Carolina with all those small forwards that they already have, we didn't even Seth Jarvis too amongst that mix of Sebastian Aho. Like it's not a big group, but man, oh man, can that kid shoot it? And it's just what a luxury for Carolina that if one of those guys go down with injury or something like that, or if they decide to package up and do something big, they could just slide up Bradley Nadeau, right? Just bring him up, fill the hole.
Yeah, the goal scoring component is pretty special for him. He's always been a great player to shoot off the pass, a power play weapon. That was readily apparent. Just a great release on that young man, and now he's got a chance. So keep an eye on those guys. A lot of really intriguing prospects, and this obviously doesn't cover the whole swath of them. We just wanted to try and give you a sampling of what it looked like. But lots of fun. Keep an eye on that. Only a few preseason games for these guys to give themselves an opportunity. Otherwise, back to junior, back to the A. Maybe they make the roster. Those are the players that we'll be watching most closely. Cam, this is a prospects podcast, and the draft is kind of important when we're a prospects podcast. And one of the things that all of us in our industry are looking for is, some samples of what the NHL might be thinking about a draft class. You've heard about what we have said as pundits, as draft experts, as analysts, as independents. But what does the consensus say? And TSN, which has long had the list that Bob McKenzie has produced, which is not his opinion, but the opinion of a selection of NHL scouts. It is going to continue at TSN. And I'm actually going to be working on that, which is pretty cool. It's been I've been working with TSN to build that. And so these are the opinions of NHL scouts. So I'm not going to get super specific about certain things in terms of how votes went, but I will get specific about looking at the list because it does give us an idea of what NHL teams are thinking. And Greg, we're going to go ahead and put up the rankings here because we've got Gavin McKenna at number 1. Everyone knew that, Cam. It was unanimous. It obviously was going to happen. But there you see the top 10. Keaton Verhoff at number 2. Ivar Stenberg 3. Ryan Rubrek at 4. Ethan Belchetz at 5. Tynan Lawrence, the Muskegon Lumberjacks, unfortunately injured right now. Hopefully he'll be back soon. The first center listed on there, Ryan Lynn at number 7. Vigo Bjork at number 8. Daxon Rudolph at 9. And Chase Reed at 10. So as predicted, a lot of defensemen, but look at all those wingers, Cam. Like that to me is one of the stories of this draft is that last year we had centers and defensemen and, people were trying to decide and really it was where were we going to go next? So this is now we see it. So when you see that many wings at the top of the draft, that's the thing where I say little alarm bell goes off in my head. Is it going to really go down that way? That's what I started thinking.
Yeah, and first off, congrats on getting that gig there. That's huge.
Thank you.
And very exciting. And it's fun too because with Bob retiring, I was like, oh, there's a vacuum. It was naive of me to think that TSN was just going to give up that surely millions of clicks every year. So I recruited a host of scouts to do this exact same exercise. And so I've been collecting their lists and I'm going to look to publish mine sometime next week as well. And I'll say this, the list will look completely different. And there are some big surprises on some of these lists that I've gotten already one of the main things that I'm consistently seeing is that some of these scouts are just saying, do these guys not like centers? Because teams really like centers. And so I think we're going to see those centers rise up quicker. We're going to see a guy like Tynan Lawrence, who, a spoiler alert, he's number 2 on a couple of lists that I've received already because the premium on centers, right? A guy like Savanto, a young Finnish center. It's like he's got size. He's young for the draft class. He plays the middle of the ice. Basically, nobody else checks that box. Like it's going to be other than Tynan Lawrence, right? Who isn't a super big player. So it really, really going to be fascinating to see how teams navigate that. But the other thing that jumped out from that list that you guys had there with TSN is Vigo Bjork. I think that teams are really, the ones I've been talking to, recognize excellent IQ, great skill, but he's undersized and he's not a great skater. And I think that he's ripe for slipping down draft boards because it's like, is he a center at his size and his skating, or is he now a smaller skilled winger without great speed?
Yeah, and I think these early season lists, and I believe last year, Bob's list had a couple of guys that, that were in the top 16 that did not go in the first round. Some didn't even go in the second round. And that is a thing where these early lists, the thing is that Vigo Bjork, where, he's done it at a level, that is noticeable at this point. And I think that people are like, well, I just don't know if anybody's supplanted him yet. But I do think you're going to start to see there was a lot of love for the Swedish team from the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. Guys like Malte Gustafsson, guys like Marcus Nordmark, Elton Hermanson, like they're all in that mix as well. But so, that's been kind of interesting as well. And really the other thing too, that came out of the TSN list, there was one American on the whole thing. One American player, Chase Reed, from the Sioux Greyhounds. And that is
pretty high up.
Again, another sample. We saw the same thing last year, except there was James Hagens at least. That player does not exist this year. But I agree with you. I think to me, the center discussion is looming over this draft in a major way. I think those defensemen will supplant some of those wingers. The thing about it is that the size factor with Rubrek and Belchetz specifically, those two guys, I could see them hopping over Ivar Stenberg at some point. But the question is, who hops over them if there are premium positions? Teams are going to be looking for those. I can't wait to see how this process goes. It's really interesting to be a part of. I know you're getting a lot of feedback as well, and how, and I will say, as this process moves on, the thing that people should know is that if teams had to publish their lists the way that we do,
Whew.
they would get absolutely torched for them.
It's amazing,
Which
right?
is funny. And it's funny though, because then they torch us, and it's, but either way, put it out there and see how it goes. See how you fare. But always an exciting time. That's the preseason list. As we know, that will change. I think it happens every year. So not something that we necessarily get into. All right. Well, we had to skip this segment last week, and we don't want to do that again because we like having a little bit of fun here. So now we're going to get our brains cooking a little bit as the seasons get going. And we're back with another edition of the Called Up Challenge. Now, what are we going to do this week? We're going back to our top 5 scorers from a given draft year. The questioner will give us the who was drafted, the year, who was drafted first overall. The rest of us, you at home as well, will have to work with the other co-host to find out who the top 5 are. We'll give each other a few hints along the way. I usually let Cam go first, or I usually ask him first. And I was like, that's not exactly fair to do all the time, because we also don't tell each other our lists ahead of time. And so one of us will usually have to change whatever list we were planning to do when the other one inevitably asks it. But Cam, I'm going to go ahead and leave this one to you. You tell me which draft class I've got to guess, and we'll see how embarrassed I get here.
See, I'm gonna help you out. I'm not gonna go 1973. I'm not gonna make you really dig too deep here, right? We're gonna go keep it nice and easy. 2021. Okay, very recent. Ooh. Not everybody's played a ton. Owen Power went back to the NCAA, but he was the number 1 overall pick that year. So we're looking 2021.
2021. This is a tough one. Yeah, with Owen Power going number 1. He's not in that mix. So in terms of being the number 1 scorer. Let's see here. And obviously we had Matty Beniers go, and he has seen his production drop a little bit. All right, let me think here. 2021. And this was obviously a weird COVID draft year too. So makes it even more fun. And I remember the COVID draft. Yeah, this was nobody's anywhere. You're watching on Zoom. All right. So top scorer from the 2021 class. Let's see here. So that would be all right. Is Beniers number 1 at this point?
Beniers is number 2.
Beniers is number 2. Okay.
Number 2.
Mason
where he got drafted
McTavish.
too. Mason McTavish is number 3, and he was picked number 3.
All right, we got, let's see here. 2021. Oh, Wyatt Johnston is number 1.
Number 1.
Yeah. So Wyatt Johnston, number 1. Man. Okay, here we go. So we got the top 3. Then now it gets difficult. Did Stanky make it yet?
Stank did not crack even the top 12 or something that I got in front of me.
Yeah, he had enough. He had extra CHL time and AHL time. That was a very bad guess by me. All right, so let's see. We've got Johnston. We've got McTavish. We've got Beniers. Let's go with. I'm going to need a hint, I think, now. I don't want to waste the listeners' time as much. My mind's going blank.
Super silky forward out of the played down the NCAA.
Okay, Kent Johnson. As soon as you say
JJ.
Silky, that's where I'm gonna almost like it's weird. As soon as you said the word silky, I didn't need anything else. So KJ, we got KJ 4 on there. That's that one. And what a year he had last year, so quietly, right? Like just what 60? Did he have 60 points last year?
Did he get that match?
Yeah, he had a ton of points last year. I was like, what? So let's see. Okay, KJ Beniers is Owen Power number 5.
Owen Power is number 5. 1 point ahead of both Dylan Gunther and William Eklund. 1 point ahead of
that. See, now that is surprising. Yeah, but that's
right.
There you go, and that's with that extra year in the NCAA. Kids, see,
that's right.
Arrive ready, and you'll be good to go.
School is cool.
All right. Well, Cam, one of my favorite drafts. We have not done this one yet. Is one of the drafts that this might have even been one of the first drafts where we actually linked up. Well, I think we met before that, but either way, 2019 in your home city.
Vancouver. So Jacques Hughes.
Jacques was number 1. So
Yeah.
the 2019 draft, give me the rankings.
Okay, so it's Jack's got to be number 1.
He's number 1 by a lot.
Right. Okay. So that was year dominated by the program. So I'm going to guess Matty Bolt is also among the top 5.
Matt Boldy is number 2 at 244 points.
Cole Caulfield,
number 3 with 219 points.
I'm rolling.
Yep.
Does Zegras? He had such a good start. Would Zegras still be up there? Who are the other? Yeah, I'll go with Zegras. Give me Trevor Zegras.
Zegras is number 5. So you got one more to go. You are rolling. And my one hint is this kid was not in the program. So
oh yeah, well, I imagined as much. Spencer Knight. Yeah, no. I'm trying to think. Capo has done nothing. Gosh, I'm thinking like I can only think of like high picks. Who else was like Kirby Doc? Mo Sider?
Sider's number 6 on the list.
Number 6. Who am I forgetting here? Who am I forgetting?
WHL. I'm going to give you the next. So you already said
a dub player.
Him. Dub player.
It's a dub player. Dub player.
No longer plays for the team that drafted him.
Oh gosh, I'm going through the list of players right now who got picked where. I'm thinking I got Broberg, I got Cousins, Dylan Cousins.
Yes, Dylan Cousins.
There we go.
Number 4. Just 6 points behind Cole Caulfield, however, with about 80 more games than Caulfield.
Yeah.
So like that was
well.
the year dominated by the program. You have 4 of the guys in the top 5 scorers. It'll be really interesting to see how Zegras does in Philly this year. I have no idea, how that's going to work, but I'm really excited to see it because you've got Michkov and Zegras who could be super exciting together. So
yeah.
That was fun, man. That was a good one. That was good.
And
these recent drafts, they can be very deceptive. You've got the Wyatt Johnson. Man, that one, I don't know how famously he leads it despite being so low. All right, let's get back to our regularly scheduled segments here and keep it going with Beyond Belief. And we're going to mix a little NHL talk. We're going to mix a little bit of different things, some things in the news this week. And of course, this is when we give each other a statement and the other has to decide if it is believable or beyond belief. And we're going to start off with, I think, probably to me, one of the biggest conversation points in the NHL preseason. It will be a major talking point throughout the season. I think if this were another market, it would be even bigger of a deal, but it's a big deal to me because I think this player is awesome. So Cam, Kirill Kaprizov will re-sign with the Minnesota Wild this season.
Yeah, I think he will simply because he must. He must. If Bill Guerin has to trade him, or heaven forbid he walks away like Marian Gaborik did, right? You can't do it. I think Guerin's already in a hot seat already, right? With things that have happened so far. He's had how many years now at the helm? They haven't had playoff success. There's now you got Kaprizov that's been a headache. Rossi was a headache. They still got Gustafsson they got to get done. They got Gustafsson. They got to get somebody done. There's another guy who needs another contract there too. I think they just keep raising the number until it gets it done. And I think Kirill's camp probably knows that they can say no a couple more times and the number's just going to get larger. And everybody knows how this is going to work, right? Is that McDavid, Kaprizov, Hughes, these guys can write their own ticket because if you don't give them exactly what they want and prove to them that this is a legitimate place that you can win, they're going to walk away. The freedom of choice has never been greater in the NHL, and the superstars are recognizing it. And the power is shifting even further to that side. So I do think it gets done simply because it must.
Yeah, the thing to me is that, people are like, if he, I know Kaprizov said today at training camp, I want to, I love Minnesota. It's second home. And people are like, well, why haven't you signed? Well, it's because I don't know if there are many players in the league that have as much leverage over the team that he's currently with as Kaprizov does with Minnesota.
There's one, McDavid.
The history of not being able to keep, the history of not being able to keep the stars. The fact that is, if you don't keep him, where are you for the next 7 years. Where do you go from there? You don't go anywhere.
You blow it up.
I love Liam Ogren and Danila Yurov and these players. They ain't him. And you need him. You need to have that player. You will continue to be mired in mediocrity if you do not retain him. Craig Leopold is willing to spend the money.
Yeah.
That's the only, and that is going to be the path forward. He will be the highest paid player in the NHL. I agree. I believe it will get done for the same reason. If they don't get it done, it's a disaster of epic proportions. And it's really, in the end, it's not Bill Guerin's fault. It's just the fact that the player didn't want to stay, so, but I think he will, because that is going to be a boatload of money, an absolute boatload of money that will be dropped on him. All right, let's move on.
Largest ever. Okay. Your favorite topic, prospect scrimmages. Yes. Ivan Demidov's, his prospect game performance was not at all overblown. In fact, maybe even underblown. Is that a thing? Can you underblow something?
I don't know
I've never
Can
underblown
we say that on
something.
this podcast? I'm
not sure. Is that censored? Yeah.
Don't
underblow me.
So first of all, it's beyond belief, because the stuff I was seeing after one thing, I was like, stop, everyone stop. Yeah. You don't need to overhype it any more than it's been overhyped. That game was ridiculous. Like, he blew, wasn't it against the Winnipeg prospects too? They don't have prospects. They don't have a lot of prospects there in Winnipeg. So there aren't a lot of guys, and this is a guy that was doing it against NHL teams last year. If you came away with any takeaways from that game about Ivan Demidov's season, I don't know what to do. I'm not trying to yuck your yum. Be excited. He is awesome. This guy is going to have a great season. He is the Calder Trophy favorite. It feels like there's no one that will catch him for that. We don't need to breathlessly go through and deify this performance as I saw on social media. It was one of those things I'm just like, oh my God, like the headlines on major media outlets. I'm just like, this was a practice, basically. I mean, we talk about practice. So I'm over it. So it was overblown, never underblown. So yeah.
I might try to underblow some stuff this year. I might give it a shot. Some guy drops a 6-pack out there, drops a 6-goal night, and I'd be like, whatever. Could have got 7.
That might be our new segment. Overblown or underblown.
I like it.
I don't think that's going to be our new segment, unfortunately. All right. So let's bring it back to junior hockey. We mentioned him earlier. We both said that he should go back to junior hockey, but here's one for you. Jake O'Brien of the Brantford Bulldogs, Seattle Kraken draft pick, will lead the OHL in scoring this season.
Hell, I mean, why not, right? Would he pop 90? Did he get 90 last year? Now he's going back. He's going to be on just a deep club, lots of offense. Sure, I like it. I like the kid too. Let's see if he can put on a little weight this season too. Hey, let's see if we can get a little 10-pounder extra on there. That'd be nice, because the kid's got all the skill in the world. Got to meet up a bit. Yeah,
I agree with that completely. 98 points last year, 32 goals. As a rookie, 64 points. So the year before, 64 points, 13 goals. So you think about that. Can he keep moving that? I think he's going to have a massive season. Brantford is loaded. He's going to wear the C this year. I'm really excited to watch him do that. So yes, I'm going to say that is believable.
Okay,
right, let's toss it to you for our final Beyond Belief.
The NCAA will close the loophole that is allowing pro players to play in college hockey. We saw another one. Yeah. I like it, though.
So Jack Beck, who played for the Wheeling Nailers, was a point-per-game player in the ECHL last year, and also played 4 games in the AHL with Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and was actually invited to Pittsburgh Penguins training camp and passed that up to go to this. Basically made the decision to go. He committed to Arizona State. He's going to play for Arizona State this season. He's 22 years old, so he's not some grizzled veteran, but he is 22 years old, starting college. If you guys want to have an understanding of this, I highly recommend following Mike McMahon on Twitter. He's from College Hockey News. He also does his own newsletter, which I subscribe to. It's totally worth the subscription. talked a bit about this process. And so, to answer this, I think it's beyond belief that they will close the loophole, because I think that the NCAA is still not sure about this idea, the vague description of what a pro is. Necessary expenses gets thrown around a lot. A player in the ECHL, maybe making somewhere in the $60,000 a year range. And they're saying, is that that's necessary living expenses? Essentially, it's not a huge cost. I mean, there are other things like housing paid for, other things that benefits and other things like that. So now you're in this situation where we've left this vague description of what a pro athlete actually is. And now these players are testing that. And 3 players have successfully gotten through the clearinghouse, or what used to be known as the clearinghouse, to get eligibility. And so now we're in this situation where the toothpaste is out of the tube. The precedents have been set. I don't think the NCAA is going to do it, because I think they would get challenged in a lawsuit, and they have lost so many of them. But I do think there are other things, like once you're 21 years old, your clock for the amount of eligibility that you have is starting to tick down. One of the players that got granted eligibility at Bemidji State actually only got 2 years of eligibility, cannot play for 4 full years there. So there are a number of things that will prevent players from doing this when, say, they're outside of their ECHL career. It's like, man, I'm 35. I had a great career. You got a scholarship for me.
State.
Yeah, it is, and they're like, no, not, but maybe. And I did see there was like a 61-year-old guy playing in the LSU marching band. I mean, like, dare to dream. I think that's, maybe that's after you finish your ECHL career, you can go do that. But needless to say, it is going to probably frustrate a lot of people that this exists. But I do think that there's really, the precedent now is what it is. They're doing it in other sports too for European pros. I think this is just the way that things are going to be.
And why is it even frustrating for people? Like you said, he's 22 years old. He's playing in the coast. Most of the time, these guys end up being like, okay, there goes my hockey career. Now I'm going to go get a job somewhere, just a regular person job, or maybe they go play CIS. No, like, who cares? Let the kid go to school and maybe get a 4-year degree. And then, hey, if he takes off at college and he signs himself an NHL deal, good for him. Or maybe he gets a pro contract in Europe or something. Or maybe he just goes and gets himself a degree and then actually has a career ahead of him when he leaves school at 25 or 26, right? I think it's good for the player. I think it gives it elongates his shelf to potentially be a hockey player a long time, but it further stabilizes his life. And why would that be a bad thing? I got no problem with it. Now, if you start pulling guys that, play a full career in the American League and has played over in Switzerland and come over now, they're 30 and they want to do it, obviously that's outrageous. But 22 years old, you're still finding your way. And we like put these kids on this track when they're elite young athletes. It's like your whole world is to go play NHL hockey. And now you get to this point and you're in your early 20s and all of a sudden it's like, shoot, I'm not going to be good enough. Now what? And we kind of just leave those guys and we're like, oh, well, too bad for you. Go figure it out. Why not support them and give them an opportunity to find some, to find some stability in their life with a good education and potentially a good career? So I am all for it.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good perspective on it. Obviously, you're a former educator yourself, and I think that the opportunity that getting an education provides is amazing. And the other thing too, like when a player goes and plays in the CHL, they do get their education package, but there is a time limit on when they can use that. And if a player like a Jack Beck, who is in this specific instance turned down an opportunity to go to an NHL training camp for this opportunity, he's basically saying, okay, I know what the odds are. There's a different path for me. And he took it. And his brother played at Arizona State, had a great experience there. So now he's got this chance to do it himself. And, again, as you mentioned, extending the opportunity to be, are some of these guys going to get free agent contracts? Or some of these guys going to get opportunities? I think, and they probably have a better shot at doing that in the NCAA. So it's going to be really interesting. And I think that this is something that the AHL, the ECHL, other leagues are going to have to monitor, because it does kind of take a few players out of the pool that would be part of their leagues. But still very fascinating to watch. It has been equally fascinating to see people come down on both sides of the argument. To me, the rules are the rules, and they're unclear at this point at best. So as long as they are the way that they are, there's really nothing you could do. And if it makes a team better, they're obviously going to add the player. If it gives the player an opportunity to better himself, why not?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Let's go. Fascinating nonetheless to see guys that played the ECHL play college hockey. I do think that is fascinating. So anyway, all right. So we're going back to you have to pick one. I was looking kind of at some of the betting odds and different things and who's going to finish dead last in the league. So normally we give 2 options. This time I'm going to give 3. We talked about all these rookies that are potentially making these teams, Cam. So you have to pick one to finish dead last in the NHL this season. Is it the Sharks? Is it the Blackhawks? Is it somebody else?
I think we underblew how bad Chicago's going to be.
A new term.
Just looking at that blue line as we were talking about trying to wedge 3 rookies and Del Mastro, and it's like, and then you're looking up front and you're like, who's Bedard got to help him take that step? I'm underblown by that roster. So yes, I'm picking Chicago, which means that Chicago will be pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, back to pick 1. Like what a run! Hey, if they can get lucky enough to win the lotto and get themselves a Mr. McKenna. I'm going with the Blackhawks here.
Yeah. I am too. Actually, looking at the San Jose roster didn't make me feel as bad. I actually accidentally skipped him on the list, but Yaroslav Askarov was the player that I was also going to talk about. I think he's making the team. He's probably going to be their goalie. And if he gets a good enough run, where is he at? Between him and Spencer Knight, like really kind of negligible in terms of what I think the impact they're going to have for their teams are. But you do look at Chicago's roster and you're just like, how, really, if Andrei Burakovsky is your most significant add up front, it's simply not good enough. And you're going to have other guys, younger guys, Landon Slaggert, Cole, Doc, the other Doc,
Oliver Moore.
Yeah. And then, is Oliver Moore going to make the team out of camp? There's going to be a lot of things to kind of keep track of. Give me Chicago at the basement. I think San Jose is going to take a step this year. I think Chicago is going to take one more step back before maybe rebounding next year. We'll see.
Who's the team that's going to that we're kind of projecting to be in the mushy middle that collapses like Nashville did last year? Who's that team? Because I got one in mind.
Oh boy. Okay, I want to hear what you have to say because I'm going to need a second to think about that.
Okay, this is one of my spicier takes that I probably will slide into my hot takes to start the season. Is that I think Boston just bottoms out and they trade Pasternak, and they move Pasternak. All of a sudden, and if we want to go ultra spicy, he ends up in Florida, him and Marchie, and everybody loses their collective minds. Overblown for sure. That one's getting overblown for sure. That's my take. Is that Boston goes full tank mode and they go screw it and they move Pasta, and then everybody gets fired.
Yeah. So after winning the lottery last year, out of nowhere, I'm looking with a bit of a critical eye towards the New York Islanders this year. Yeah. Especially like if you're in a position where you have to play Matthew Schaefer, where you really don't have a choice, that's where I see it. So I could definitely see the Islanders taking a deep enough step back. Now, what can prevent that is a healthy Ilya Sorokin and a strong season from him. I think he's a great goaltender. But, I look at their forward group and it doesn't get me super excited about what it's going to be. It's fine. But it's nothing more than fine, so that's a team where I could see, if a couple injuries on their blue line, that's a disaster waiting to happen. There's just no depth there. There's very little support coming from the next phase. The Bridgeport Islanders in the AHL were the worst team in the AHL last season as well. So you don't have that secondary group that's going to help you. So to me, that's a team that I'm looking at with an eye towards it could be rough this year. Even with, healthy Barzal, healthy Horvat, all these other things. I just don't have a lot of faith in that.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, Cam, man, what a show. Like, this was fun. I enjoyed
Great
the
times.
show. Good. We had a good challenge. We had some good questions. We talked about the guys in training camp. Hockey is here. What do we got coming up on Elite Prospects? Continue the excitement for us, Cam.
Get hyped. We got our draft rankings. We got the preseason draft rankings. We've got our watch list, which is massive. We're trying some different stuff this year. We got Yannick Belcher joining our team, helping to direct European scouting. The kid is a machine. He just files reports. I'm not sure he sleeps. We got another Mitch Brown on the staff now too. So that's coming out. That's very excited. We finished that up. Like I was saying, I've got my scout pool that I'm working on as well. All the season stuff, right? We got our season previews for all the leagues. We're churning out content over there at EP right now.
Yeah, it's exciting. And obviously for us, it's all about the launch of the seasons. We've got obviously junior hockey this week. Next week will be men's college hockey, a lot of games. So stay tuned for that. Definitely check out FloHockey.tv. Get that annual subscription. It is absolutely worth it. OHL, QMJHL, USHL, all underway. So make sure you get that now. Don't miss anything. It'll take you right through the playoffs, and then you'll just be able to renew it next season and continue to watch hockey. More than 20,000 hockey games. And you never know what we're going to add next at this point. It's been a wild ride, Cam. We're having a blast with it. So hopefully you guys are having a blast too. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of Called Up the Prospects podcast. I want to send a big shout out to Greg for producing today. Huge shout out to all of you for listening. Make sure you are subscribed to this podcast on your app of choice. Make sure you leave a kind rating and review, and be sure to leave us some comments on the YouTube channel and other places as well. This podcast is available on FloHockey's YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out if you haven't, so you can also see us as we speak into your headphones. So lots of fun. Cam, can't wait, bud. This is it. We are finally there. Season is here. Let's enjoy it. We will be watching everything you got coming up on Elite Prospects, and for us at FloHockey, a lot more to come. That is going to do it for this week's episode. For Cam Robinson, I'm Chris Peters. We'll catch you next time.